So, welcome to With Respect. My name's Georgia. This is the show where we talk about stuff martial artists don't normally talk about in the dojang for risk of being seen as disrespectful. Today, I've got someone very special with me, my first guest who's actually willing to be on camera with his face. I'm very excited. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Andrew Banks, and I'm the Chief Instructor of Koku-Ryu Martial Arts in North Lincolnshire.
Okay, and most people come in with a story that they've already planned they want to talk about. Do you want to dive right into it, or do you want to talk about something you've been doing recently?
No, we can dive right into it if that's good for you.
Okay, well, go on, set the scene for me. What sort of rank were you? What grade were you? Did you train at your own club at this time? Tell us about the context.
Okay, so context-wise, so this was back in about 2012, so quite a while back, and obviously, I know that I obviously look a lot younger than I am, so I must look very young then. But I ran my own martial arts school, and in 2012, that would have been my 5th year. I was a 3rd Dan black belt by this time, and as you and many people know, politics in the martial arts is very, very tricky, and most of it is all about people just not getting on, rather than there actually being an actual need for any politics at all, if we're really honest about it. I was running a traditional karate school for the majority of the 5 years, but because I had backgrounds in other styles as well, I wanted to branch out. So I didn't just want to do traditional karate. I wanted to do traditional karate as well as freestyle martial arts and jiu-jitsu and kickboxing and so on. So one of the things I did was I became a dual affiliate. So I was affiliated to an organisation called the and then also decided to become joint affiliated to an organisation called Shouldn't be a problem. Both associations were very much of the opinion that they don't get involved in how you run your school. There are no politics involved. You can do whatever you like as long as you're doing it safely and above board.
And
which obviously every
school. If you say anything that's not that, then they're going to get told off about it. So you kind of have to say that.
but it's what they still specify on their site, and I always find that one a little bit comical. But basically, what happened was there was a lot of things that kept happening through being affiliated to the problem we were having with it was that I wanted to further my knowledge as a teacher, as an instructor, because one of the things I learned as I started teaching more and more was that I didn't know as much as I probably wanted to, and I wanted to do better for my students and better for my school as a whole, because obviously the whole idea is to grow your martial arts school and get better and provide more. So my first step that really sort of threw up some red flags, I guess is probably the best way of putting it, is when I asked about doing their instructor training. So I wanted to become a certified qualified instructor. Usually, obviously, I'm not sure what you've gone through directly, but usually there should be some form of you attend a session, you get a load of theory thrown at you, you have to show what you can do and so on, and pass some sort of exam or test. So just show a level of competency.
Is it a bit like a standard reading? Because I'm not an instructor. If anything, I've purposely tried to avoid becoming an instructor because I like to train for me. It's my hobby, not my profession. But I do hear about you go and you have a set curriculum that you have to prove that you have a level of competency before you can pass it on.
Exactly, yeah. So when I got on the phone call with the head of, I turned around and said, I would like to do that. I haven't done an instructor qualification for a very long time, and I want to refresh myself. And I was told, you already run a successful school. I don't need to see anything from you. Just send £20 and we'll send your certificate through the post.
Okay.
I was like, sorry, what? Okay. So that was a bit of a concern. I didn't like that at all. Didn't like that answer at all.
And one of the things, we trust you based off your existing status, but how do you know they don't do that with everyone?
Well, and that was the problem, is that I've done this for a long time now, especially, and after obviously that was 2012. We're talking obviously 2025 now. One thing I've learned is that actually I would say a good majority of martial arts instructors do not know as much as they really probably should or probably could. Not in the intention of they don't mean to, but through going to university and doing sports science and things like that, you start to realise that martial arts, as a general rule, is very, very far behind the curve. And only a few martial arts instructors have carried on developing themselves and learning how they can actually really, truly help people based on what we now know rather than what we knew in the 90s and before them.
The golden age.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was trained in that era, and I loved old school training. I still do to this day. However, we now know there are better ways of doing certain things, and which you can get results faster. So yeah, that was a concern. And as you can probably gather, I didn't send the £20 to get the instructor certification. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. But then the next thing came along. We joined, run by a gentleman, really, really good guy. And one of the things that really, really ticked several boxes for us was you had to actually attend a first aid course. I was like, we could actually attend one that they were running. We could do their instructor training, which was a full course you had to attend, which not only taught you the teaching side, but the other side that most instructors at the time weren't really as understanding of. So the legalities of running a school, what insurances you need and why, and all the other bits and bobs that go with it.
Actually, business.
Exactly. So most instructors, I mean, I still have this discussion even to this day, where the amount of people that will sit there and go, what insurances do I need? And I always tell them the same thing. Well, do you know what each one actually does? And do you know what it actually covers? And most of them don't. It's like, well,
no.
You kind of have to. Or the legality of how long do you need to keep your insurance certificate for if you teach children? And they go, well, it's only valid for a year. It's like, no, children can sue you for a number of years after the event, and you still need to have proof of that cover. You can't just delete that or throw that bit of paper away.
You need your books for I say 3 years, but I keep mine for forever.
Well, I think the last time I checked, a child can sue an instructor up to 18 years past the event.
Whoa.
So, crazy, right? So you have to keep your insurance document for that long because, like everything in the world, businesses change. Your insurance company you had in 2009, sorry, they might not exist in 2025. So you can't just go, well, I was insured by X, Y, and Z, who don't exist anymore. So you can't find them, so that's not my fault. You have to be able to show that document and go, I had it, it was real, because there will be a paper trail where another company's bought that asset. Their insurance assets don't just disappear. It's equity for someone else, so they'll still pick it up. Mm-hmm. So you have to have that. And this is what I meant when I said about learning more about what we do, because there's more to it than just the kicking and punching. But if you become an instructor, which I totally get why you might not want to do that, all of a sudden there was more alarm bells ringing in my head that I'd been with at this point in time for 5 years. Mm-hmm. I was now with, and in the space of a few weeks, I knew more about things I didn't know previous than I ever had. And that again started ringing more alarm bells. Mm-hmm. But because we still had the traditional karate side and I still wanted to keep true to that traditional karate element, I still kept them separate. But we did promote, we were cross-affiliated, and all our students were paying memberships to one and the other at the same time. And it didn't breach any of the bylaws by both. So we didn't see any issue with it. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden, I got an email through from the head of who up to this point had always been really, really friendly with me. So I'll make that very clear. As much as I might not have agreed with some things that he said, it was always still very friendly and still tried to be helpful. But this one day, he'd been apparently alerted by somebody that we were showing on our website that we were joint affiliates with, and he wasn't okay with that because I hadn't asked his permission and it wasn't the right thing to do.
The right thing?
Yeah. So I queried, I said, well, sorry, what is it I've done wrong? I'm really not sure on this one. And I explained to him that they offer things that didn't. And because I was also going to be teaching additional things alongside traditional karate, I wanted to make sure that the opportunities were there for those students. He was adamant that there was nothing that offered that they didn't. So when I highlighted the instructor training, the first aid courses, he immediately came back to me with, well, you don't need a first aid qualification to run a martial arts school.
Well, no, you don't need it, but it's very nice.
I was like, yeah, and that in my head again rang another alarm bell, because I was like, well, no, but I don't need insurance to run one either.
No, you could just literally buy yourself a black belt, go, I know about the way to defend yourself, and you've got a shed. Would you like to come train with me?
Exactly. I mean, I'm hoping no one tries it in a shed, but but yeah, the truth is, because martial arts isn't regulated, you could just go and buy a black belt off eBay, and you could get a nice certificate that goes with it. I actually have a collection, believe it or not for me personally. We actually went through a whole phase of going on eBay, seeing the people that were selling you black belts and certificates for like $5.99. We used to buy them and have a folder for them. So when we used to have people come into our school and say they're a black belt, if they presented us with a certificate and we had a copy of what one of those certificates looked like, we could go, not a chance. Nope.
I love that.
I went through this whole phase for a brief period of I started calling out people's BS in martial arts, because even now it still bugs me. People like myself, probably you as well, I assume you as well, but those of us that have gone through the whole blood, sweat and tears process, we've actually trained hard, we've worked diligently and through most of our life to get to where we are. We will then see people that will do things that aren't the right way of doing it, or they'll find shortcuts or buying it off of eBay. And they seem to be sort of pushed by the wayside, going, well, they'll just do a bad job, so let them disappear. They don't generally disappear, and people start paying them for what, in a better way of putting it, is fraud. They're being fraudulently paying for something they think this person knows, and they don't. And that's not okay in my head. That goes against... I think for you do Taekwondo, so it'll be going against the tenets of Taekwondo, whereas for me it's going against... Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I've done this a long time. But for me, yeah, it's the virtues of martial arts. Like it goes against the honesty, integrity, respect. So for me, I am one of the martial artists that say, no, don't ignore it, stand up for it, and if they really are breaking those things, call them out on it, because it's our job to do that.
Yeah, so if anyone doesn't know the 5 tenets of Taekwondo, just for the audience benefit,
sure.
It's courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit. Most people don't know what that last one means, but it means like never giving up, being like not letting people ruin your motivations, and just fighting adversity to get to your goal or whatever. And I'm imagining you have something similar in karate, but the idea is basically being a generally good human. I'm not religious, but I go a bit into the cult of that.
Yeah, no, totally. It's about being that, you were right, being a better person, being a good person. So yeah, when you see people not doing that, when you as an instructor will dedicate your life, or as a martial arts dedicate your life to being that person, when you see someone take what you love and what you've spent your entire life loving and making a mockery of it in such a way, it's really weird that as martial arts we go, yeah, just leave them alone. Like, no, we worked hard. And if someone's doing something they shouldn't, in life, we are told we should stand up for the people that do it right and not the ones that don't. So for me, that's quite a thing. So when I'm being told you don't need to have a first aid qualification, I'm like, no, you're right, you don't. You don't need insurance either. You don't need anything. No one's going to ask you. The only thing you really need, and that's if you ever get asked for it, is a DBS check, which was CRB check back then. Mm-hmm. And... so I get that, but I want one, and you don't offer it, and they offer one that is specific to martial artists, because I'm a qualified first aider and first aid trainer, but whenever you go on first aid courses, most of it, when you get into the meat of it, it's all about industry or generalized injuries, whereas martial arts is usually blunt force trauma, and things that can be very, very bad, because we literally kick and punch each other. We literally headlock each other. We choke each other out. How we don't have as many injuries as other things is beyond me. I still don't understand how we get less injuries than football does. So
people are more conscientious about it.
Maybe, but when you think that we're a contact sport and then football is a non-contact sport, they have more injuries than we do. It doesn't seem to weigh up. But as an instructor, just doing pure due diligence, making sure if someone has a non-breathing incident in your dojo or dojang, that you can help them. This is the term I got told, well, if someone has a problem in your dojo, if you're an enlisted, you just go get the staff that are outside. I was Well, I was taken back because we do run classes at the leisure centre. But my argument was, yes, but someone's not breathing. So we know that brain death will start kicking in after a certain matter of minutes, which isn't many. We have to leave the dojo and leave all the students there freaking out, run to the desk, ask the person to get the first aider, whoever it is. And unless they know they've got a pool, it could be the lifeguard that's on duty. So they'll radio that person. They've then got to run from there, go and get the first aid kit, because they'll never ever have that with them. They'll have it in the first aid room. They'll run and get it from the first aid room, because they don't really know what's happening yet. Then run round and get to you. So how many minutes have gone past by that time?
No one's doing CPR in this time because you're gone.
Exactly. And if you don't know what to do, you're not doing anything. So that person is in the position they're in from the point that incident occurred. And there is nothing being done to help them other than everyone freaking out and panicking. So 5-10 minutes could have gone past. In the best case scenario, that person is dead now. There is nothing that can be done. That if the instructor was qualified, they would have started the full process of making sure they're okay. They would have done everything they could to give that person a fighting chance. So again, another alarm bell was in my head going, I'm being told this by someone who's meant to be in charge of the English and European, and I'm thinking, this isn't right. Mm-hmm. So I found myself going back to and going, am I going mad? I'm sure if he ever watches this video, he's going to remember this really well. And because am I going crazy? Because this doesn't make sense in my head. And he went, nope, doesn't make any sense. You are right to ring me. It is concerning. And his exact words were, you need to leave. He goes,
did not mess about, just said it.
I can't. He goes, I've heard this sort of stuff before from other associations, but he goes, this is insane. Why would they tell you not to have a first aid certificate? I don't understand why people's safety seems to be an afterthought.
I'd like to raise a point, actually, because this is your profession, this is not my profession, but my profession is like in media marketing, I'm qualified in film and TV production, that sort of stuff. So it's always taught to us that, obviously, morally, we don't want people hurt. Self-defense as a concept is about keeping people safe. But from a business angle, which is what this other person's probably thinking of it as, from a business angle, if people die in your clubs that you're associated with, doesn't look great for your brand, not at all. Probably not going to get you much money from future students. But in a film set, for example, if you don't have the appropriate insurances, the appropriate risk assessments, the appropriate first aiders on site available watching for problems, then you essentially are liable as a director, as like the named head of the shoot or an executive producer, whoever's name is at the top of the credits after the actors. Then they are liable for the death of someone. If anything happens on set, in an environment where there's probably hundreds of people about, they could go to prison. There was a fake gun that went off and killed an actor. Is the prop master at fault? Is it the actor who pulled the trigger and didn't have gun safety? No, it was the person who's in charge of the production, and they weren't even in the room. So, from business angle, what the hell? Yeah,
it was totally crazy. So I literally took for those that don't know, he's also a superintendent or chief superintendent of police. Obviously, with that head on, he was saying there are way too many alarm bells going off. And from a professional standpoint, not just a martial arts head of, he was like, get out. It's not that these are risks you don't want to be associated with. It's not right. And I couldn't disagree with him. And so I went, yeah, he's got a point. So I got in touch with my committee at the time and said, this is what's happened. I filled them all in on everything. I went, this is what we've been recommended to do, but I don't want to make the sole decision. What do you think? And they all unanimously went, yeah, we'll leave him. So I was like, fine. So took it on myself to immediately, and I actually have the email on my screen, actually, from the 21st of March 2012. I then turned around and said that further to the conversations we've had, that there were issues keep arising and we are concerned about it, so we decided to step away from with immediate effect. This wasn't met well at all. Apparently it meant that we were lacking in morals. Then literally one of the emails that's up on my screen here is it says that we have let our morals down. Okay. Which is crazy. And the next thing we know, we are being inundated with emails from solicitor who had a very, very strange writing style that was very, very similar, if not the same, as the person who'd been emailing me before, detailing that we were now in breach of guidelines and we had 24 hours to remove every shred of membership immediately, which was...
Guidelines is the first word I would question there. Guidelines.
Yeah. And I was like, well, hold on. My students were paid members, which mean they had insurance coverage as part of that. They were a member of so their insurance should still be part of that, but fine. So I had to...
dates.
Yeah. So I had to go back and say to him, this is what's happened. Obviously, I sent him all the emails as well, because I couldn't believe it. Because even he turned and goes, yes, that's clearly a solicitor that's messaging you. But he was really good and straight away was like, okay, we'll provide all those students with cover free of charge for the remainder of their time that would be with and then we'll just get them signed as members with when their time's up. Luckily, most of them are already dual members anyway, so it wasn't an issue, but it was really nice he offered that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, what was originally just a basic, simple concept of, I want to teach traditional karate, and I want to also teach the other side to what I know as well. So let's have both, give people more opportunity, became a matter of politics gets in the way again, and whilst people say we won't interfere with the running of your club, they definitely will, and it doesn't end well.
What do you believe was their motivation in the end? Because if it's an art that they don't offer, that you're not really possibly even stealing students because they couldn't have possibly trained under their flag for that art if they don't offer it. And I know clubs where they have a venue that's appropriate for martial arts, but they also know it's appropriate for dance. So they just want to get an assistant instructor who's qualified in dance to go and run some dance classes. There's no overlap that could have happened there either. So where does the conflict arise?
Exactly, and it was very, very strange because we were looking at the time, because this is obviously a long time ago now in my head, can't be that long ago, but I wanted to start doing more in terms of kickboxing, jiu-jitsu and things like that, because I'd spent my entire life doing pure traditional karate, and whilst I had dabbled in bits and bobs here and there, I'd never gone, I want to go do this, that and the other. And what happens in traditional karate, which is very different to taekwondo, is once you get your third dan black belt in traditional karate, generally you don't grade anymore. You are then awarded your next set of dan grades based on time served, the fact you're still training, still teaching, passing on the art. Okay, so after 4 years from getting my third, I would then in theory be honoured with my fourth dan. And whilst I'm always been very grateful for the awards I've been given, I do genuinely really respect them, I appreciate them. I'd spent my entire life grading and working towards something. So being told all of a sudden, yeah, you're done now, you've paid your dues, you've done your service, and I was like, no. So I went, okay, if I can't grade in traditional karate anymore, I want to go down something new. So I went down some other routes, hence having the grades in kickboxing, jiu-jitsu and those that I do, because I didn't want to stop and I didn't like the idea that I was done. So they gave me those opportunities, they gave me those avenues to go down, and some of my students wanted to try some stuff as well, which I'm pretty sure you probably had instructors who have gone, yeah, give that a try, it's a good idea occasionally, because it's good to broaden your mind.
Yeah, like, I'm really curious to try a judo class because I know that one of my weaker sides is grappling. Even though we have it in taekwondo, it's not really something we spend a lot of time on.
Totally agree, and same with traditional karate, that grappling is part of it, but because karate was then further developed into more of a striking art, just like taekwondo, the downward stuff isn't there so much. So when I did jiu-jitsu, it was kind of like opening a locked door and going, that's what that move does in that kata. That's what that move does. So I'm not punching someone. I'm not. What do you mean I'm not blocking? I'm throwing. Okay, I'm throwing people, right? And that was amazing, but it didn't take away from my traditional karate. And this is why I felt it was so sad that we had to part ways. It added to my style of karate so much, where all of a sudden I'm going, I know what all that does now. that doesn't just block anything. I'm really hurting people. Not that I should get excited about that, but all of a sudden, all the art started becoming more functional, more realistic, more useful. When you see a step-through punch, and all of a sudden you then learn you're not punching anyone at all. That's not what it's for. But I spent years learning that's what it was for, and all of a sudden it just
practical application. I want to know why everything is happening. Like,
yeah.
One of my grade patterns, we have like it looks like a knife hand strike, but it's not.
Yep.
You have to sort of bring it back a little bit, and it's because it's an eye slash.
Yeah. And yeah, so all of a sudden, every block you've learned, everything, and all of a sudden you then get told, oh yeah, there are no blocks in martial arts, really. Like, sorry, what? No, we don't block. We deflect at most, but we don't block things. Blocking hurts. Hitting them, on the other hand, or breaking things that are theirs, that's much more fun. Okay? But, so that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted for my students. So because I wanted to continue growing as a martial artist too, apparently I found that some associations, not all of them, I assume that that's not always the case, but some don't want that because they want you there. They want you to stay in their circle. They want you to be where they are, because if you're going anywhere else, you're going away from what they've done, and it also then means that you're going to start seeing the cracks sooner rather than later. You're going to start realising that what they do is not the be-all and end-all. There's much more to it than that. And yeah, so
people's reputation in martial arts, as you said, in karate you have to be awarded like your next rank by a higher instructor, so you kind of have to have a crowd around you, or else if you've not got this network to pull from, how could you possibly advance in their mind? And like I've had to guest at other organizations, like I'm with the GBTF, which is like largely northwest based with a bit of northeast sort of leaning. I think we're getting a bit more towards the Midlands now, but the GBTF didn't have enough black belts at the time for me to be able to grade for my second Dan, because we're a small group and it's like a collective of independents. So I had to go guest at Millennium Taekwondo to even get my grading done. So there's sort of the mindset of if people don't keep their people in their remit, what's going to happen later? People
seem to get scared of going outside their bubble, and that's I've always found that very, very bizarre. But as you'll know, I assume that politics happens quite heavily in Taekwondo as well. And I know there's two styles of Taekwondo, but there are a lot of associations popping up here and everywhere now, just like it has done for karate and it will do for other schools. But there's a reason why, to this day, my school isn't part of the WKF, the World Karate Federation, because one of their statutes categorically states that you're not allowed, they can dictate who you can and cannot train with. And I've always been, well, I'll train with whoever I want. It's my life. It's my art. I study karate, but the whole point is past a certain grade, you're meant to make it your own. So surely that's not making it your own anymore. You're making it just what they want it to be. So that's why we don't honour that either. And it's a shame because I've trained with some amazing WKF practitioners, but I'm not allowed to highlight I've trained with them.
Okay.
Because I'm not part of the WKF.
A bit of a gag order that. I do have a question. I want to raise a question.
Go for it.
With you. It's going to be a very controversial word.
Go for it.
What are your thoughts on the concept of a McDojo or McDojang for me?
Oh, okay. Wow, that's a loaded one. I like that. Okay. So, if you asked me this 20 years ago, my answer would have been different. My answer would have been that any club that doesn't do things properly is a McDojo. And basically what would happen is that we'd always call out those schools that were doing something different to what you did. And that was it, they were a McDojo. That was it, they were awful. And as I got older and actually started understanding the term more, the problem is that the term's been thrown around by too many people in different ways. So for me, a McDojo is a school that charges over extortionate prices, providing subpar product. If you are running a martial arts school and you're charging £500 a month for your martial arts classes and you're getting students in, good on you, because I do genuinely believe that martial arts instructors deserve that much. However, I know we're not going to do that. But if you're charging them £500 a month and you are literally, you don't know what you're doing, you're teaching really poor classes, you're not really teaching any of the things you say you're going to do, you are a McDojo. That is what you're, that is that. And so, whereas if you're charging £500, but you're giving £1,000 worth of value every month, no, you are doing exactly what you should be, and that's brilliant. There was a local school to me Then they've changed hands, and luckily who they changed hands to are doing a really great job. But one of the things they did was they charged, I think the base fee was around £120 a month for 2 classes a week that were 45 minutes for children that were 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And they were charging that, but some of their students were leaving Taekwondo and coming to me. And whilst I'm not a Taekwondo practitioner, there's only so many different ways you can punch, kick, etc. And they were coming to me.
Can't ignore.
Yeah, and some of their black belts were coming to me, and they were trying to figure out why my blue belts were over and above better than them. And I had to be honest and say, because unfortunately, you've paid for the belts you've got, and that is a shame. And they were going, is it just Taekwondo? I'm like, no, I know some black belts in Taekwondo that are phenomenal black belts in Taekwondo. The ones that really do
shit on Taekwondo when I've gone to mixed events. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, and you've probably seen it. You go to a competition, and you can see the ones that you see in the black belt divisions. You'll see good Taekwondo black belts, and you'll see the ones where you're like, sorry, how come you can't tie your belt?
Oh my god, belt tying. Oh,
and that's the same in karate as well. I mean, I was at a competition in Peterborough recently, and there were all these black belts that all lined up, and only one of them had their belt tied properly, and I was like, it's like nails on a chalkboard for me. It's like, oh my god, what are you doing? It's like, if you can't tie your belt properly, I'm going to really struggle to take you seriously. So yeah, McDojo for me, it's charging over and above what you should be charging for very limited or subpar product. So for me, my view changed. So it was very much a case of if you did everything by direct debit or standing order, you're a McDojo. If you wore a different coloured uniform, you're a McDojo. If you ran events that were family oriented or community oriented, you're a McDojo. And I was suckered into that by a lot of old school belief. Now, I genuinely believe if you don't do community events, if you don't make your brand stand out, if you don't show the world that you are different in some way, then you're doing it wrong. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with a bulk standard, just a white uniform, white gi or white dobok. I'm not against that at all. If that is part of your branding. but if that's part of your branding and that's what you want to happen, there's nothing wrong with that. But there's also nothing wrong if you want to have a freestyle uniform. There's nothing wrong if you want to have a red uniform. If that's what you want it to be, and you don't deviate from that, then that's great. But what you teach on the mat, that is literally the most important thing, and that's where you have to provide the most value by far.
Mm-hmm. We've used the term, like, what's right a lot, and obviously everyone's then going to go, well, what's right then? Kind of like how in religion you go, well, my God says this, and your God says no.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's sort of what it's like, of what's correct. But I'm just of the opinion that what is correct martial arts training is what could practically defend you in a real self-defense conflict. If you can beat someone else on a mat, that's a good example of you've been taught right. If you can stop yourself getting stabbed in the street, great example of you've been taught right. And yes, the answer is run away. But if you are then showboating, look at me, I'm this hard-ass black belt, I'm the best, and then you can't defend yourself, you probably went to a McDojo.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a firm believer that some people are forms people, and they prefer forms over fighting. I'm not against that, because at the end of the day, martial arts got to be what you need it to be for you. But yeah, even I've got some, when it comes to our black belt gradings, for instance, even my forms guys that prefer forms over fighting, they still have a level of sparring they've got to do, and they've got to be good at. And their self-defense skills, they need to be able to apply it. And one of the questions I get asked a lot is, for those that are due for going for their first dan black belts, is what happens if I can't make this work on the day? And my answer is always the same: make it work or you fail. And they're like, why? I said, because in reality, you don't have the option to go, sorry, mate, can you grab me like that again? I got it wrong that time. I want to try that again. So I've always brought my black belts into the world of, you're human, you'll make a mistake, but you still got to make it work. So you know how to make it work. If you move them and it's not the same position, no, it isn't anymore. But you've done something from that position before, right? Well, yeah, then do that now. Adapt it. Improvise, adapt, and overcome with everything you do, because everything I've taught them up to this point, if you can't improvise and adapt it at the grade they're going for, then that's my failing. So for me, yeah, they have to be able to defend themselves to a certain degree. Obviously, I don't expect them to be Jackie Chan level or anything like that, where they can take on 600 ninjas
before they get shot.
Exactly. But there's got to be a level where I know as a black belt, because we all know this, and you've probably seen this. Once people reach first degree, first dan, whatever you want to call it in whatever martial art, the participation level gets to here, and then it starts falling off. So you'll get 10 people get their black belt, their first degree or first dan. 2 will probably stick with it beyond that point, because the others think they've just become masters of their art and they're great, they've completed it. Or as in-betweeners go, completed it, mate. And so they leave, and that sucks, and it does. As an instructor, it hurts, because you really want to see them go further. But that's the reality of it. So knowing that's going to be the case, a good instructor should make sure they have a level of preparation, because that's probably where they will finish. And if we don't, we've probably done them a disservice again. So going back to the whole McDojo thing, as you would.
I'm curious about your opinion, because you do karate. I do not do karate. I am curious how you feel certain martial arts intermeld with each other when you do cross-disciplinary sparring, not MMA, which is like sort of its own thing at this point, but like when one person of one art spars with one person of another art. I'm curious how you teach adaptability for that.
That's a really good question. So I teach MMA as well. So and I love it, but I love it because of its adaptability, which some styles don't like. So when you teach karate versus karate, their rule set is their rule set, and you don't deviate from it in any way. And I assume taekwondo is probably the same. So they have certain ways to score and so on. And yeah, the problem with that is that you're putting one style against another, and unless you have a rule set that they can follow, they will automatically default to their base rule set.
I actually want to do seminars of this sort of thing, and I have no idea how to do it, which is why I want opinions.
So, well, could you imagine, like, someone that does say judo, they don't really punch or kick. I know some styles of judo do implement that, but not many do. So someone does judo goes in, someone does karate or taekwondo. So a striking art versus a grappling art. The grappler is going to want to grapple. No matter how you look at it, they're going to want to grab hold of you and throw you around. Most taekwondo and karate practitioners that have not done any ground game, they want to stay on their feet, so they're going to use their arms and legs and punch and kick. And no matter what, they're both going to default, unless they know there is a particular rule set. So, well, if they get pulled down, they get more points, or if they get, say, standing, they get more points. They're never going to truly try and push that envelope. They're going to stick to what they know. They're going to stay in their bubble. And I see this when I teach MMA, because whenever I teach MMA, I get people that are from karate backgrounds or from a jiu-jitsu background. And it's really hard to get them out of their mindset of, well, I've done this for years. Yes, you have. But while you're stood up, you can grapple all you like, but they're going to punch you in the face. And we've got to deal with that bit as well.
What happens when you get caught out?
Exactly. Or you make a mistake, because no matter how good a fighter you are, no one is 100% precise 100% of the time. They make mistakes. One of the things I like about MMA in the grand scheme of things, you were right, it has become its own beast, and I'm always two minds of that. But one of the things I do like about it is the level of adaptability that now comes with it. Of, does it need to look elegant and precise? No, but it does need to be practical. So, okay, you do a figure 4 lock that's not exactly in the right millimeter to where it should be. Where when you do traditional jiu-jitsu, like, no, that's wrong, that's not correct, go fix it. I agree with that. From a traditional standpoint, I love that level of it must be better. But from MMA, I also love the standpoint of, did it work? Yes. Did they tap out? Yes. Then good.
It's not a fight if you don't send them to the medic.
Yeah. So I like that.
I get contact warnings if you didn't know.
Sorry, I used to get told. I got told by a guy. His name's Hayden Lindley. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's a fighter for Andy Crittender's Martial Arts Academy. And he, in a seminar, he went, and he did say this jokingly, understand me. So he went, warnings are just there for your benefit, right? He goes, if you got 3 warnings before you get a point taken off, you've got to use them.
Right.
So I thought that was really comical, but at the same time, there's a rule about making the rules work for you. So
That's why I always check. I check the mat area, I check what the refs think, and then I go in with my knowledge.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with using the rules to work for you. That's kind of the point, right? A good fighter will adapt to the rules they've been given, and I think the issue you have when it comes to multiple disciplines against each other. There does have to be a rule set that gives them scope for what they can and cannot do, because otherwise they will always default to their default rule set. So that's where I'd go with it. But it would be cool to see more of that rather than it being purely mixed martial arts now, whereas it would be martial art versus martial art. That'd be fun to see again, I think.
I really, really want to do that. I'm not an instructor. I don't want a club. I don't want to have students. But as a second dan black belt who intends to get to master level, I would like to impart some knowledge sometimes. So I feel like that would be a fun, unique way to do it. I always say that I would be better just having a business under martial arts where I don't teach, but I get teachers, and I just have like a dojang, and I could set up a studio rig or something and rent that out for content. I don't know. I feel like that would be fun, but that's not a soon thing.
So you'd like to be like a martial arts centre manager as opposed to a martial arts head instructor?
Basically, I am a marketer, and I feel like I could do great stuff with that, but I have no intention of renting a venue anytime soon. I'm working on other endeavours first.
No, and where does it sound so? That's probably the best thing, because you want to use your skill set in martial arts potentially that suits you, and that's one of the things that a lot of people don't realise, that a lot of people think they have to be an instructor to be helpful to the martial arts community. You don't. You can be a student, but just have your niche that you're good at. And use that, and that's a great thing. Giving back to martial arts is not just about two people kick and punch. There's so much more to it, and martial arts in itself has become so much bigger than just kicking and punching, because we're not in feudal Japan anymore, or at war with anybody anymore like that. So we don't have to use our martial arts skills because there's a samurai going to cut our head off. It's adapted, it's changed, and that's great. So
there's a guy called Barrister. I don't know if you know about him, but I
love him.
Okay, so this guy, I don't know him personally, I've never met him, but
I would love to meet him.
I had his videos shown to me by a girl in my club, and then a few months later I found out he actually trains at the club my friend is at. So I was like, no way.
Oh, wow.
So I would have meet him. What's he called? Dan Smith, I think?
Dan Smith, yeah, because I think he's got an awesome name as well. You wouldn't expect that. Yeah, I saw him on TikTok the first time about 4 years ago, and I was like, okay, you're a black belt, but you're trying to add your black belt ethos to law, and that is brilliant. Because when we sit and talk about black belt leaders, he's literally being one, and I love it. It's like that's what you want to see from black belts, not just kicking and punching, but they can take those skills, that respect, that honor, that discipline, and go, I'm applying it to my life.
I'm going to tag him in this video now. Let's get him on an episode.
Absolutely. I would honestly, I would love to meet him, because the way he talks, and he does it with such credence whenever he does it. And I also see the negativity he gets from people that have no clue about what they're talking about. And he deals with it so professionally. And the amount of times I've gone, I need to be more like him sometimes.
Well, hopefully he sees it. Hopefully he messages. Like, okay, I feel like we've had a good chat. We're rounding out here. Would you like to tell us about something you're doing at your club that you want to promote?
I don't know, really. I mean, we do so much. So the only thing I could probably say that would be, if anyone is interested, is that one of the things I do every year is I go homeless for a charity called the Great Tommy Sleep Out. So it's for raising money for homeless veterans that have served our country and they're finding themselves in times they really shouldn't ever. So me and my students, we did a safe, I used to have to do the quotes, safe homeless one night for them, where they slept at the dojo because that was safer for kids. I'm not going to expect them to go homeless. That'd be mad. I'm quite sure that child protection laws alone would probably go mad if I made them go homeless.
Yeah, what about DBS checks?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. What are they? Did you say risk assessment? I've never had that. But yeah, so they did that at the dojo to try and raise money, and then I did the same thing, but I went homeless for 24 hours where I actually had a cardboard box and slept rough for a week. And that's one of the things that I'm doing, and I'd like to try and persuade more clubs to try and do things like that. Think outside the box to do things for the community at large, because as a martial arts community, we have so much power to make changes in a positive way. And if we really want to show the world that we can help people become better people, we should show that actually as people, not just as martial artists sometimes. And that'd be really good to see more people do that.
Awesome. So tell us one more time your club where people can follow you.
Oh, follow me. That sounds like a stalking. Okay, so my school is Koku-Ryu Martial Arts. We're based in North Lincolnshire. And you can either check us out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you name it. You can find us by typing in that or KRMA. And yeah, feel free to come along and say hi sometimes.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on and being a guest. I feel like I had a really good time. To the viewers, if you know something you would want to share with the martial arts community that most people would think you're a lunatic for trying to talk about, then please do get in touch. The form to apply is in the description below. And thank you, Andy, and see you next time.
Thank you very much.